What's going on, New York Yankees fans? Welcome back to another video. Hope you guys are doing well. If you guys haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. Turn that notification button on so you get notified when a live stream pops or a video drops. In this video, I'm going to talk about the last series between the Yankees and the Rays. The last game, I'll discuss my thoughts about because I know a lot of people, just based off the recency, feel a little negative about it. I feel, a couple ways about this series, but we did get the win 2-1 in this series. I am happy about that because it's been a while since the Yankees have gotten a win in the Trop. So let's go ahead and talk about the first game. Jordan Montgomery was on the mound for that one, followed by Loaizaga and Chapman. Judge struck first with a homer, and, before that he was on a huge struggle. This series ended up being his best, or one of the best series this year, basically because, he was coming off a struggle. We were talking about a couple days ago, how Stanton, was the big hitter in the lineup, that he was hitting the home runs, that he was getting the good base hits, and Judge was on a struggle. Well, Judge, he had a couple of good base hits in this series, including, I believe, he didn't strike out in the last game. I think he may be hurt. I'm not going to spread rumors out there, but Tyler Wade did actually play right field in the third game. However, Judge, once again, the first two games did get some base hits. He obviously struck first with the homer, so the Yankees took a 1-0 lead from there. Also, the runners took advantage of Zunino's errors and Patino's movement. Sometimes, as a catcher, if you have a guy on the mound like Luis Patino who throws some nasty stuff that has a lot of movement, sometimes you're off track with the ball and you can't really, you don't know where it's going. So there were a couple of wild pitches back there, pass balls, if you will, and the Yankees ended up scoring 2-1. Then Monty actually gave up a home run to Mike Zunino, cutting down the lead to 2-1. The bullpen, once again, does the job. One of the best bullpens, if not the best bullpen in the MLB. Loaizaga and Chapman combining for 2 strikeouts, 2 walks. Jordan Montgomery getting his second win of the season. Hasn't had many decisions. It was a while, actually, going back to early April where he got his first win. He actually got a loss somewhere between that span. Can't remember the game right now, but obviously will come back to me at a different time. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts, and 1 home run. Good stuff you like to see from Jordan Montgomery. There was a time in the season that everybody remembers where the Yankees were basically, banking on a good Garrett Cole start, and then the rest of the rotation had like a 5-point-something ERA. Jordan Montgomery is obviously improving, and he's becoming a good pitcher for this rotation. And with that being said, this year I had little faith based off of last year for him, but he actually has come into the season, and he's actually done quite well. So I'm very happy for Jordan Montgomery in that aspect. The Yankees take this game 3-1. Yankees 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. That I might embark on a little bit on the third game. Not necessarily the runners in scoring position, but the lineup, at least the bottom of the lineup near the end, because we have some stuff to talk about, as we do. But the last 2 series, it's going to be, some really good discussions at the end. And unfortunately, at least I think so, this was Gleyber's last game before his positive test. They held him out, I believe, on the 12th, also because of the potential positive test. Well, now he has a positive test and is going to remain in isolation for a couple of days. He is asymptomatic, though, so that is a good thing. So with that being said, we're going to move on to Game 2. And here we are now. This is by far one of the best, and I know I say it every time Garrett Cole pitches, this is one of his best starts of the season. I know I say it every time Garrett Cole pitches, he is the best pitcher in the American League. And listen, the American League, baseball in general this year has been funky. The Padres, they're, second or third place in the West. The Giants lead that division. There's, I don't know who leads the AL West. There's a lot of funky stuff going on, and just all around baseball, because you could kind of compare the NL East to the NFC East if you, follow the NL East. And I know a couple of content creators who are Giants and Met fans could say that, based off 2020, now 2021, the NL East is like really weird. There's only like maybe one team over 500. I have to look back at the standings, but I'm pretty sure the last time I checked, and this was actually either before or after the National Series, that the Nationals were actually leading that division. I don't know how Philly has done recently. I know they just finished up a series against the Braves, and I think they had a series after that. The Mets, they played the Orioles, and I remember them coming back for a win on that one, but I would have to check. But my point is, baseball's been weird this year, but going back to just like my first point and stuff, but we'll talk about the weirdness at the end. But my first point, Garrett Cole, best pitcher in the American League, 8 innings, 4 hits, 12 strikeouts, and a 1.37 ERA. I would have liked to seen him go an extra inning, maybe a shutout. That's really rare in this time of baseball. I think he had like 104, 106 pitches. But, Aaron Boone and the front office makes the decisions. And in this day and age in baseball, you really can't pitch a pitcher 117 pitches, 120 pitches. I believe that Garrett Cole would have gone into the 9th inning no problem and possibly come out with a shutout. And, you give Chapman that extra day of rest. But I'm not the manager for a reason. I'm not up to the standard of, the analytical baseball and the modern game of baseball in terms of, like, judgment and stuff like that, the way the game has become. And that's why I'm a YouTuber and a content creator, not a baseball manager. I just give my opinions and thoughts on stuff. In terms of the only run they scored was actually a sac fly. I believe it was by Aaron Hicks, actually, who got an MRI, I believe, today on something. I think it may have been related to his shin injury. I don't know. I actually have to do some research later, but hope he is well. We're going to talk about that stuff at the end because for some chance, or by some chance, he does go on the IL. There's a lot of options that the Yankees could choose from in their minor league system, but they would have to make some moves. And this also relates to, some stuff we'll talk about later in terms of the bottom of the order because I know a lot of people, including myself, are not happy with the production of the bottom of the order. So with that being said, the only run was a sac fly. Wade got caught stealing. There was a close play, but, if you're not going to steal or if you're going to get caught stealing, there's no point of Tyler Wade being on this team. I've been saying it for the longest. I get it. People on the bases, they get caught stealing. But my point is, and this is actually something I have been saying for a while. Just because you have speed doesn't mean you have the IQ to run the bases. So with that being said, that is Game 2. Now let's break down probably the worst game in the series, which is Game 3. Jameson Taillon. He is either so unlucky as a Yankee, or he just hasn't started off the season in the right way. He's 1-3 now. And the reason why I say unlucky is because every time he goes out on the mound, the Yankees don't support him. And, other than the first win and maybe a couple of no-decision games, he has not been getting the run support. And I understand. He did meh for this start, 4.2 innings pitched, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, and a homer. He gave that homer up to, I think it was Austin Meadows, I'm pretty sure. I believe it was in the 3rd inning, if I want to say. I'm pretty sure I'm correct. In the 3rd inning, he gave up a 2-run shot to Austin Meadows, and then there was an RBI single in the 1st inning that made it 2-0, and that's kind of where things sunk down. Yandy Diaz with that 2-run single. Then the game pretty much just went down in terms of pitching, in terms of hitting. It wasn't going well. When you can't necessarily produce on offense, it kind of impacts the pitching in terms of how much they can hold. I've been a strong supporter, more of a stan of Michael King this year, and 13.1 scoreless innings, and now he breaks it. Gives up 3 earned runs. He gets 6 strikeouts in the 2.1 innings that he pitches, but he gave up a home run to Randy Arozarena, who's been a Yankee killer for the last 2 years. But he still maintains the 1.84 ERA. And I know a lot of Yankee fans, and I saw this on Twitter, they're calling for, Michael King to replace Jameson Taillon in the rotation. I'm not necessarily for that yet. I think there are a lot more problems. Not saying Taillon has to get better. Not saying Taillon, isn't struggling or whatever. He hasn't pitched in 2 years. It's going to take some time. But I think the lineup, and the bottom of the lineup, there are more concerns there than we're going to talk about pitching. And it's been, evident this year that the pitching has been carrying the offense. And, in these games, and the thing I hate about these Game 3 games in terms of, like, losses and stuff, it's never, in my opinion, now I would have to go back and look at different games this season, it's never like, oh my God, it was so close, but I enjoy the effort, the Yankees tried. This game, it got away from them and they let it. No structure at the plate in terms of plate discipline and pitch recognition. A lot of strikeouts. I'm pretty sure it was 10 strikeouts all around. Stanton struck out twice. Frazier struck out twice. That bottom of the order really has to get better. Sanchez had a catcher's interference. That counts as an error. And it seems weird to me because I don't know how Wainwright pitches, but him being Rich Hill and Zach Greinke, they love their off-speed stuff. And they're both, I believe, 40, 41 years old. And they've been in the league for a while. Rich Hill has been in the league, I think, since 2007. And Zach Greinke since like 2003, 2004. I remember playing MVP Baseball 2005 with him, so obviously I would know that. But my point is, I guess as you get older, you use more of the off-speed stuff. It's kind of strange to me, but, for a guy that's throwing 84 miles an hour on a fastball and a 73-mile-an-hour curveball, it's kind of strange that the Yankees couldn't adjust to that and start hitting the ball. But Rich Hill had an okay outing. He didn't give up any runs, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts, 6.2 innings pitched. If I didn't mention already, 3 hits. 4.26 ERA, so he's 2-1 for the Rays. He's brought in there basically to replace Charlie Morton and Blake Snell, and he's done, I guess, a nice job for them so far. Obviously, lowering the ERA will be something he has to do this year, but, if he could get players and different teams with that off-speed stuff, I think that's good for him. Now, let's speak on the offense, and I'm going to basically say this. The Yankees lost this game 9-1, by the way, so let's break into a little bit of a discussion here. And I announced this last week, or was trying to get into it last week, about Chris Gittens, Treyon Berge. If you guys remember the discussion, if you haven't, check that video out. And I know I haven't really been active on YouTube. I'll explain that at the end, and some stuff that's coming up. And I will make sure it goes out. I'm not going to sit here and be lazy on YouTube. But my point is that the bottom of the lineup for the Yankees and all around the MLB just isn't good. And, my friend pointed out to me, he goes, yeah, the Yankees lineup at the bottom half sucks. Barely anyone's over 200, but look at the rest of the league. And I agree with that. I get the perspective on that. It's just, there's that saying, if somebody jumps off a cliff and someone tells you to jump off that cliff with them, why would you? I feel like the Yankees in this sort of situation with all these divisions, and it's still early in the year, so I'm not going to go ahead and bash them, super much, but I'm going to critique them. If you can adjust your hitting to get over 200, to get players, back on the spectrum in terms of situational hitting, do that. Make it for every team to be a disadvantage of versing you. In terms of the fact that, their bottom of the order actually is pretty good. Because you can't go into a game where you have the top 4 or 5 hitters hitting over 200, 240, 250, if that, and then you go to the bottom of the lineup, nobody's reaching 200, barely like 190. And let's, go over the averages. Mike Ford, he's hitting 095. Clint Frazier, 141. Miguel Andujar, he's a disappointment because ever since he's been called up, he hasn't proven that he is major league worthy other than the year where he almost won Rookie of the Year. Brett Gardner, 182. If I hadn't mentioned already, Clint Frazier, 141. Gary Sanchez, 197. And I know there's a lot of people campaigning out there for Higashioka to be the catcher, but he's hitting 205. That's slightly better, but it's not much better. The Yankees need to adjust their hitting, and the thing is, we talk about on this channel, whether it's the Boys in the Big Apple podcast or it's me breaking down something, if the home runs are not working, if you're swinging for the home run, and it's not necessarily swinging for the home run, or it could be, whatever, when you're losing 9-0, swinging for the home run with nobody on is not necessarily going to do anything. My personal opinion, because I'm a baseball player, I would know that. Swing for the home run so you can get 1 run on the board. Get a base hit, do something. You're already down 9 runs, so at least try to do something so you get more runs by getting on base and stuff like that. But the Yankees don't have that mentality. It's always the swing for the home run, and it's at the worst time possible because, when the Yankees' power is good, when the Yankees' power, you see Stanton and Judge hitting home runs, you don't see them doing that in like a 9-0 game. When they're down big, you see the effort go down. You see the grit go down, possibly. And then you see the effort and the amount of power go down. So you're basically striking out every at-bat. And it's unfortunate that the game of baseball has actually come to the point where, I guess striking out is better than grounding out into a double play, which is something that the Yankees are frequently doing this year, grounding into a double play and striking out. It's just not good. And listen, we've got so many months till playoffs, so we're not even going to talk about that. But in terms of the hitting, something needs to be done at the bottom of the lineup. Something needs to crack. And I forgot to mention, I apologize, that Clint Frazier was ejected. And I'll go into something in about a minute. But in terms of the Clint Frazier ejection, Bill Miller had a horrible strike zone on, what was it, Tuesday night? May have been Tuesday. No, it was actually Wednesday night. Excuse me. So in terms of Wednesday night, Bill Miller had a horrible strike zone. Now, the pitches Frazier got, they weren't necessarily bad calls. And I'm not anyone to defend an umpire. Now, if it was a bad pitch, I would definitely say, hey, listen, you got to go out there and argue. I would say state your case, whatever. And umpires, I'm not defending them at all because I think they're basically let go by the MLB in terms of, any punishment. They get a constant get-out-of-jail-free card in terms of punishment. People say they're graded. They're not graded, and if they're graded, they're not graded on anything other than their own merits or whatever. The point is they get off scot-free while the players and the managers have to answer the questions. But my point is, if he got a bad call, I would say, okay, maybe argue a little bit. But in that state where you have Aaron Hicks, now, I don't know if he re-injured something or whatever in that game. But I'm talking game 2 here. In that aspect, when you got Gleyber Torres, who's potentially, COVID positive, and maybe other players are, and maybe other coaches are, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where, oh my God, we got like one bench player left. So for Frazier getting thrown out of the game, I think he was just frustrated, and maybe he thought he got one bad call, and he argued, and Bill Miller threw him out. Once again, short leashes are not something I defend. MLB umpires always get off scot-free, but once again, Frazier has been struggling this whole year, so it should not be surprising that he gets frustrated over one thing and then gets tossed out of the game. Nonetheless, I don't defend that. So, in terms of something I've been talking about for weeks, and especially on the Boys in the Big Apple podcast, something needs to be done in terms of not calling up the same guys and whatever. Because when Gleyber Torres went on the COVID IL list, they brought in Miguel Andujar. And honestly, I think Andujar, if I was the manager, now I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I would trade Andujar or designate him for assignment. He is no good anymore. People were looking at him for his defense. He doesn't even provide offensive production anymore. Just go. Bye-bye. Derek Dietrich, Chris Gittens, Trey Ombrigi. Ombrigi's not an infielder, so I'll cross him off the list till we get to the discussion of Aaron Hicks. But Chris Gittens as a first baseman, Derek Dietrich as a second baseman and a first baseman, they can both be candidates to replace Mike Ford. I am fine with both of them. Sure, Derek Dietrich in the past has been that 130, not really 130, but like a 190 power hitter. I would prefer him over Mike Ford because I feel like he would take his at-bats more seriously than Mike Ford. Mike Ford gets a hit like every 20 at-bats, and that's not really good. Obviously, hitting with the 0.95 average is not good, and it shouldn't be acceptable, but Aaron Boone puts him out there, and I understand Luke Voigt gets a day of rest or whatever because he's still coming off the injury and still rehabbing and stuff like that. He's not fully 100%. But you can't settle, especially when you got, the high expectations and a high market. You can't settle. And Mike Ford, I don't know why he's still up. Sorry, don't know why he's still up hitting 0.95 with 2 homers on the season. I guess they like him as a power hitter. He does some occasional picking out of the dirt as a first baseman. Doesn't show me much. In terms of outfield, I've seen a lot of calls for Estevan Florial. Guys, he's in Double-A. I get it, 4 home runs in 6 games to start the season. He's been doing well. I'm not going to go ahead and suppress that. But once again, it is Double-A. We're not calling somebody up 2 levels just to come up and not be ready. When Hicks goes on the DL or the IL, if he does, I'm not saying this is anything serious or whatnot, but perhaps he does. Perhaps Judge gets injured or something like that. I would like them to do something in terms of calling up either Trey Ombrigi, maybe Dietrich. I don't know if he plays a little bit of the outfield. They need to call somebody up that's not struggling in the minors. And once again, I love Florial. He's not ready. I think he needs to show me a little more. He needs to advance a level. He needs to go to AAA first before he could come up to the big leagues. They did that last year. He went 1 for 3. Sure, it's good, but he was not ready. Everyone saw he was not ready. So basically my point is the Yankees, and they do this a lot, and going back to that thing with Robert Pimsner, he said, Chris Gittens and Ombrigi, they're both nice guys. They're both good hitters. They would be prospects in a pirate system. They would both be prospects in a system that would see them more highly, I would say. In the prospects in our system, Deivi Garcia, Clark Schmidt, if he's still considered a prospect. There's a couple more prospects. Jason Dominguez, Luis Gil, they're seen as prospects. But Chris Gittens and Ombrigi, they're not. They've been in the minors for years, and they're awaiting their chance. Now, Higashioka, I don't think he was ever a prospect, though he's had some injury issues over the course of his career. But my point is, give these guys a chance. Especially when you got the bottom of the lineup struggling. Make that the advantage of your team, or at least don't be like the rest of the league in that factor. They want to have, players hit under 200 at the bottom of the lineup. That's their decision. That's, their prerogative. Make it our advantage, or at least, make teams fearful, semi-fearful of facing the bottom of the order rather than just, it's Mike Ford and Clint Frazier. We can strike him out easy. Don't put that in their heads. Put in their heads that we have a semi-decent bottom of the order. Because guess what? If we're down, 5-4 in the bottom of the 10th, and, the rule is up, runner on second, and you got Mike Ford, Clint Frazier, and Brett Gardner up, nobody's going to be fearful. Other than the one hit against the Washington Nationals that Mike Ford got, who knows if they're going to produce in something like that in the clutch. So with that being said, in terms of YouTube, I'm going to get out a Giants prediction in terms of the schedule and evaluation as well. I'm going to detail that video a lot because I know I haven't really been on here in terms of Giants content. I've been here in terms of Yankees content and recaps. I know it's turning into a weekly thing that's, oh my God, he's coming out with the recaps, not really Giants stuff. But, my life has been hectic lately, but that is no excuse for me to come out and not be a part of the Giants community in terms of producing content, especially when it's here. And, in a couple of weeks, football is going to be dead, and there's going to be no Giants content to produce unless you're doing, speculating videos and just editorial videos in that aspect. But I'm definitely going to try my hardest to put out a video in relations to the schedule release, the preseason, stuff like that. It's going to be a good video. And also, I'm going to do a live stream on Saturday night with a content creator. I will announce that about Saturday morning. We'll get that set up. He is a well-known Mets and Giants content creator. No, it is not the Entertainer. I had him on before, but it's going to be someone else. He was on another person's channel and said, hey, listen, you want to collab? And I said, okay, well, that's fine, because I think he is a cool dude, and I think the guys he works with are a bunch of cool dudes. Anyway, thank you guys. If you guys haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, turn that notification button on so you get notified when the live stream pops or a video drops. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you later.